Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog podcast. This is your host, Elias Roush. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRoushMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we're discussing the finale, the entire series, the one and only, the Kenobi series featured on Disney Plus. Well, what has it been? The first two episodes were dropped at the same time, so it's been about 5 weeks, 6 weeks since the original um episodes were dropped. I believe it was on a Friday, and then they started releasing them on random Wednesdays. I know that the Disney wanted to try to claim a day of the week for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, as well as the rest of their releases. So I believe most of them have been on Wednesdays. So last few weeks we've watched Obi-Wan. This is going to be spoilers, by the way. For anyone that hasn't seen it, I would say it's a fun recommend. It's not anything that is revolutionary. I think that it's a little bit more insightful into what had happened in between um, the Revenge of the Sith and a New Hope, and kind of before Rogue One, I believe. Um, but I gotta say that it's a fun show, but it's not like it's not for me personally. I think it has a lot of high highs, but the low lows are still weighing on me quite a bit as well. I gotta say that I enjoyed the series. My expectations were, about a 7 out of 10. I had been hearing about this series coming out for I don't know how many years now. I think probably 2 years, and then it kept on getting pushed back because of COVID stuff. So we were really, most people, I think, most fans were pretty excited about Obi-Wan coming to the streaming screen, I guess. Um, but with saying that, like I said, the overall series is about a 7 out of 10 for me personally. I don't speak for the mass crowd, but I am seeing grumbles of people that are really not liking it, and then I'm seeing tweets about people that are loving it and having really high, intense emotional reactions. And so I'm gonna try to breeze through it lightly, but we'll probably just talk about some highlighted points in it. We're not going to go through episode by episode like a lot of the reviews we do. Um, so, Obi-Wan Kenobi series, it is headed and led by Deborah Chow. I believe she was the showrunner and director for a lot of the episodes. I don't have the script, who wrote the script, but I did not have a problem with the script for the majority of the time. I gotta say that the majority of it felt like a very much of a Star Wars script, but it was around the end of the series. I think it was the last episode for me specifically, and we're gonna go into spoilers as well. Um, that the last episode really um, did not do it for me 100%. I gotta say, it was mostly in the Darth Vader and Obi-Wan um, conversations, or lack thereof. Um, Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Who is writing behind this? Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh no, television series. And so the majority of the episodes were written. Let me see. Toby Harold, Stuart Beatty, Hosseini, and Joby Harold again, Hannah Friedman. Yeah, it looks like Joby was written on most of these. Um, but I gotta say, it did feel a little bit more like generic bad guy dialogue. There was episodes that I really enjoyed, such as the episode 5 with Obi-Wan leading the rest of the Jedis out of the stronghold, and they were being cornered by the Imperial soldiers, I believe, and so I thought that was a really well done episode, mostly from the emotional standpoint of losing Tala. She was really formative throughout the former episodes, and having the robot that I honestly I felt more for the robot than him going down, more than a lot of the characters. Um, I got to say most of my gripes with the series are having to do with the script and them not really fleshing out um, the the dark side, I guess, nearly as much as they should have been. I feel like a lot of it was, generic bad guy dialogue, but then when it came to um, baby Leia, played by Vivian Lyra Blair character, as well as Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, I think that they had pretty good um, rapport between each other. And occasionally it did feel like they had to kind of hone back on some of the dramatic aspects of this series so that we could have way more conversations with Leia, I guess, just because of how young she is, that you can't really go into too deep of emotional depths, I guess, because we're trying to appease um, a younger audience was what it kind of felt like. Um, so I gotta say, between the not so great episodes and then the really good episodes, there's just a big mixed bag for me. I gotta say, the first two episodes started off really strong with the world building. I love the Blade Runner world they had going on, but then um, the the main thing that I saw happening was you could kind of feel the push and pull of it being a television show. So you could almost see the next it felt kind of predictable in that way. And not only because it felt predictable in the way of you can see the writing on the wall, what's going to happen to these characters. But on the other hand, a lot of these characters already have um their futures already are planned out or predestined. Like we already know what's going to happen in episodes 4, 5, and 6 by this point. So it's not exactly, it leaves a little bit on the table to say, like, well, I mean, what is all this fighting going to end up in, except for, we know they're coming back. We know Darth Vader gets fucked up at the end of this, regardless how fucked up he gets, he's going to come back. But with saying that, uh, having the predestined um, prequel itis of it all, like having prequels kind of predestines a lot of characters that we already know what is going to happen to Kenobi, Leia, Luke's aunt and uncle. Um, Over half of the characters that are in this really intense fight at the end of this. Um, does show and explore more character moments and emotion, especially with how his aunt and uncle are really protecting Luke. They really do care about him. Um, but with saying that, it's like we know they're not going to die. We've seen the future with the future movies, so I felt a little bit like, well, I mean, it kind of takes away from the edginess, I guess, of understanding, where could this go, who's going to live, what's going to happen. Like we kind of already have that in the bag. So that was my biggest issue with the series, kind of wrapping up with these two major battles at the end of the series. A couple things I did like. I know that Moses Ingram has received some criticism from literally every angle, like whether the social justice, anti-social justice warriors are pointing out that, hey, why do we have a, a black lead character, and it's like that is so um it's so benign by those individuals that are doing that. So first of all, just cut that shit out. There's no room for criticizing someone's race, being on whatever side. Just like I'm not even gonna try to fan the flames of any of that stuff at all. Um, but so she's received criticism as being a black actor, and she's been criticized as just an actor. And so a lot of people are saying, um, is her acting up to snuff? I feel like she's done an excellent job with what she's given. Now, as the series has progressed, I don't think the um, script has held up uh, to what she really needs this entire time. I do feel like they're trying to give this character a level of um, pathos, I guess, to understand. Oh, she was one of the Padawans that Anakin tried taking out at the very end, and she was one of the ones that was waiting for Obi-Wan to come save them, and he never did. So there's understandable aspects about her character that I feel like aren't explored in this series enough, and it's kind of rushed in some ways. And a lot of it felt like they needed a lot of it felt like they needed just more time to kind of have these really intricate conversations about, I wanted Obi-Wan's character to be more remorseful, I guess, even though he just has a little bit of time to do it here and there. Some of the emotional beats of the show feel like they're rushed, like kind of like the end of the Darth Vader and the final battle in this series. Um, Between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan kind of feels rushed. Like he just kind of they have a short conversation about, this is kind of like what you made me. And, I'm Darth Vader's like spiteful and stuff like that. And Obi-Wan is, kind of just like, all right, I'm out. It's just, there's not really like I, I think I know I'm speaking for myself right now, is that I wanted more of a remorseful Obi-Wan of them having a conversation of like what had happened at the end of the Revenge of the Sith, at the end of that movie. I wanted them to have just kind of more uh, rapport to kind of understand what level of thinking that they are on. Like, you know, I need to go back and check that movie out so I can see what were their conversations at the end of that movie, because all I remember in my mind is just a whole lot of fighting and Anakin just taking out these young kids and stuff like that. So it I do feel like it was turbulence kind of coming down for me on this very last episode, that I was like, if you just have a simple conversation with each other, we could kind of understand where they're coming from a little bit better. But otherwise, they're just saying, Darth Vader's like, I'm always going to be bad. I'm the one that killed Anakin, not you. It's like, this isn't really revelatory information. It's more just kind of like, I don't want to say filler, because it definitely feels like it adds more emotion to how long it's been since they've seen each other and whatnot. But um, they're still kind of like leaving it open to possibly having a rematch again, of some sort. But otherwise, I'd say like there wasn't a minute in this that I didn't think that Obi-Wan wasn't going to come out on top on this last episode. And it was mostly because of how bad and how badass Darth Vader had been, and all, been so effective with, weeding them out with the stormtroopers and in episode 5, and really had Riva on a fence. And it was good to have her on the dark side. But then she just has a change of heart when she's chasing Luke, and it's just like, I feel like the change of heart is not earned for me personally. She's killed and destroyed um villages, people. She chopped off a lady's hand at the very first of the episode. They hung that Benny Safdie as a Jedi. And overall, I'm just like, uh, she's done so much bad. Why is she going to stop now? She even was about to torture Leia at one point. So it's like, I I don't understand how it can be so high highs in episode 5. Like, I keep going back to episode 5. I would almost been fine if they had ended the series at episode 5, and we just assumed that Leia got back and everything went back hunky dory. But I just felt like this last episode did not sit well with me, like the other episodes did. I think there was one episode where they had to rescue Leia from the base. I think that was episode 4. And so um, you know, episode 4 is naturally, uh, it's like a mini New Hope episode. It's like they just have to go to the quote unquote, Death Star. They go to the base and they have to, rescue Leia the same way they do in the first of New Hope. And, someone They lose Wade at the end of this. Oh Jesus! Oh, what are we gonna do without Wade? But so um, yeah, that's what I was just kind of. Uh, that was probably the lowest episode for me personally out of them, because I think they had Leia about getting tortured or something like that by Riva, and a lot of the character motivations just felt like very sloppy in some episodes. Um, but most of it has to do with the dark side not having like consistent tone to them and flipping sides, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense for me. I do think the special effects on the last episode as well. I didn't really have a problem with any of the special effects for the majority of the series. I thought it worked really well. The fighting. I think like I said, the best episode was between Riva and Darth Vader. That was the coolest, using the Force and everything like that. I could talk about that all day. Um, but I didn't have a problem with like the stagecraft technology video wall in the back, where I didn't think about it the majority of the series. And then at the very last second, in the sixth episode, I just noticed how it felt flat, and it felt like the elements of whatever, if they were in the sand or if they were in in a canyon or something like that, it didn't really matter, because it didn't seem like the elements of weather were really affecting them at all. It's not like um previous episodes, where I felt like when they were in the city or when they're in specific places that you could see or feel the heat. I just felt like it was very noticeable on this last final episode, that they were using the stagecraft video wall. And then when they're returning Leia home, I gotta say the entire background of, I think when they take her back to Alderaan, I guess. So when they take her back to Alderaan, just look at it. Aren't there supposed to be ships going in and out and people kind of rustling and bustling in Alderaan? And if you look in the back, it's just like completely lifeless, and it almost looks like yeah, a desktop wallpaper of some sort. And I'm just like, why is Alderaan feel so lifeless? There's like five people on the screen and there's nothing happening in the background. And with almost $1 billion company over there, you can't make it look like there's things happening in the world. I might be nitpicking at this point, but I just noticed it, and just was not crazy about this one. Um, Cinematographer was Chung Han Chung, and what is he known for? Cinematography, I believe, for Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. It. Oh, I liked it. Zombieland, Double Tap, Last Night in Soho. I really liked Last Night in Soho. He did Uncharted this year, and he's done Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's also worked with Park Chan-wook, who was I thought he was an action director, but I could be wrong. But anyways, um, yeah, I was not crazy about the stagecraft technology wall this round. I've enjoyed it better in the earlier episodes of Obi-Wan and in the Mandalorian as well. So that, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on it. Maybe my expectations were a little out of whack. Maybe I'm getting too old for this series, the franchise. I think there's so many stories that can still be told in this, and in such interesting ways. It just really depends on what direction they want to go with it. I know somebody had said that on a podcast I was listening to. I can't think off the top of my head, that the iconography of Star Wars is too entrenched in the Skywalker family bloodline, and it's kind of hard to argue that. But I do think there's tons of stories you can do outside of this, and I think they have the new um, the new show coming down the pipe. I forgot what it was called, Alderaan or something like that. Um, but yeah. Oh, it was cool to have Liam Neeson reprise his role as Qui-Gon Jinn, and we have, of course, Ian McDiarmid reprise his role as Palpatine. Thought that was cool to see both of these old school. Um, well, I guess Palpatine's been in more recent stuff, but Qui-Gon Jinn, we hadn't seen him in years. A lot of people had guessed that we were going to see him. I had a fun time with this. If I don't normally rate television shows, but if I did, it'd be about a 7 out of 10. I want to see more, and I think there's greatness to be had, and there was like amazing scenes in this series, but I don't think as a whole it's like stellar. It's still kind of middle of the road Star Wars for me. Original trilogy still OG, just with how the storytelling and the charisma just drips off the screen with everybody. The storytelling is just so much what feels a little bit more natural in there. But I do think that Obi-Wan Kenobi has illuminated a lot of what's happened kind of in between without really stepping too much on the toes of the previous series, previous chapters in the 70s, episodes, I mean. So, yeah, like I said, I like the majority of the new actors and characters in this, or baby Leia as well. All I think worked really well within the world building as a whole. Kind of seeing like Zach Braff's character um, kind of be like supporters of the Empire. I think that actually makes a lot of sense for the world building of understanding that some people were in favor of the empire. And so let me think of anything else. I think that's about all I got to say off the top of my head for this series. Anything else I'll probably just add to my tweets. I had a couple tweets regarding this series as well as all the other filmography that we check out. We like tweeting some interesting notes that we like finding and whatnot. But and of course opinions. I really did enjoy having Joel Edgerton and Monty Pesci and Jimmy Smits, and of course James Earl Jones returning with his amazing voice as Darth Vader. I think the fight at the very end, I didn't really talk about too much about the action, but the action scenes in episode 5, again with Reva going after him. I did think that Reva shouldn't have been yelling right before she came up on Darth Vader. I was like, maybe you just open up the lightsaber and not yell right before in his ear. um but I mean, he doesn't even have a lightsaber. He takes hers and does all this crazy force uh lightsaber dual wielding kind of stuff, and I was like, this is cool as shit. But yeah, it does make me want to go back and kind of check out some more of the other Star Wars uh episodes, specifically probably episode 3, just to kind of remember where we left off with everybody. But yeah, Hayden Christensen, having him come back, I think that was more for I think have saying Hayden Christensen coming back to to play Darth Vader in suit feels like it played way more for the news outlets, I guess, just the marketing of the series. I like I always liked Hayden Christensen. I was kind of one of the forgivers, I guess, of the prequel, mostly because I was one of the ones that grew up with it. But I gotta say that this one, I mean, he more like it plays cameos, and he doesn't really have a full scene with Obi-Wan, with the exception of the like I said, episode 5 again. Um cameo sort of them fighting and whatnot, flashback. But and I did see a little bit of de-aging stuff happening with Hayden Christensen's character a little bit. I was like, just didn't look like it was quite finished, but rendering and whatnot. But I gotta say that overall I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it would be a recommend. um but yeah, this last episode was just not my favorite. But I did see a lot of people on Twitter saying that they were in tears on some of these last few words that were happening, and that were that were happening in the last couple scenes for the episode. Let me know if you liked Obi-Wan Kenobi, what your thoughts were. You got a little yes, a little no, if you loved it, you hated it, that type of thing. Go to at LuckyDog Podcast for all the social medias. Go ahead and check out the links. You can get this podcast early on the patreon.com/LuckyDog Podcast, as well as many other Patreon exclusives as well. It helps keeps the light on in the studio. And so yeah, so we have a couple other shows that have just come down the pipe. We're Barry. We talked about Barry season 3, Station 11, which is one of my favorite television shows this year. And yeah, so be sure to check out all the other podcasts, and you know how to support the Look It Up podcast. Thumbs up, subscribe. You know what to do to help support the podcast, and take it easy.